Greetings and welcome to Zord's Planetary Space Program episode 22, where we are at Duna. And we are seeing our crew again. It's Bill, Jab and Bob on the Duna surface. Yeah, they've been sitting here for quite a while, undoubtedly doing lots of very interesting experiments and such. Nothing we will be getting into any detail because this is still version 0.21. So we're going to get us up into orbit, which for Duna is easy. It's easy to get up into orbit around Duna. Matching this slightly wonky orbit of the target craft is a bit harder, but we're going to do our best. And this target craft is of course the tanker and the service tank, which goes with the lander that we left in orbit. But we're going to try and match up as good as we can, and we end up slightly behind them. And I blame my lack of experience doing launch rendezvous around Duna. And we find that it's going to be hard to make this rendezvous work. Unless we move the target craft, which we very much can do. So we just make its orbit a little bit longer, and one orbit later, we're here. So we match our velocities, and I'm going to point this thing at the Duna lander and then do the rest of the docking from the lander because it's much more maneuverable and it's a much lighter craft in general. So we just can dock this back onto our service tank, which holds the nuclear engines among other things such as fuel. And the lander doesn't have its own RCS system, it's just piggybacking on the RCS system of our modular engines, which we're going to use quite a lot. So we refuel the craft and we refuel its service tank, and we detach from the tanker because we're going to Ike. We're going to have to go to Ike and do our landing and everything before the window to Joule comes up, and the Joule window is in about, what was it, 2 weeks? 2 weeks or 10 days or something like that. Anyway, we want to be done well ahead of time so we don't have to rush things or make sacrifices regarding Delta V. So now I am switching the engines of this craft. This is one of the few crafts where I have much use of the modular engines that I went through so much to make a thing. So now I have switched to our nuclear engines, and we're going to use this very much increased fuel efficiency to get us out to Eve or to Ike for cheap. And then we're going to switch back to the chemical engines to have the thrust to weight ratio to do the landing. And yeah, that's basically the whole idea behind this lander design, to have two kinds of engines so that you can have the best of both worlds. Of course, nothing's perfect, and you have a bit more mass with the whole making it modular system. And yeah, then you have to go through the tedium of changing these engines, which is, well, it takes a while, and when you have to do it a lot, it shows, or it feels rather. It doesn't show because I cut it out because it's really boring. So we have the bad fortune of ending up in an eclipse. So we can't rotate our craft for a few minutes until power comes back to do the Ike capture. So we end up in a low orbit, and I don't really know Ike very well. I've only been here once, I think. Of course, before I started this series. But we do get an orbit, and I chicken out of it and don't bring the apps all the way down. Not really worth it. So we go ahead and switch the engines out again. Even if we could land and take off from Ike with the thrust to weight ratio of the nuclear engines, we're not going to do it because the landing legs are too short. That's why we have the special design for the Jovan moons, because some of those moons you definitely can't land on with nuclear engines, and we have designed the craft to accommodate that. So we're coming in for landing. We need to align the craft, and we need to watch out for a good spot to land. And we go quite far, almost into the night side, and I don't really want to land at night, even though we have lights. And it looks like we're gonna hit a mountain over there, so I decide that this is a good landing site. So we kill our horizontal velocity, and we do the standard landing procedure, watching the altimeter and watching the speed, the ground speed. So here we go, almost there, very gently, and touchdown. Very nice. So yeah, without the science system, which is not in this patch, we don't really have anything else to do than just to go out, get some PR shots, plant a flag, and go home. So let's bring Jeb out. He doesn't look too sad about his work. And let's bring the other guys out too. Yes. Oh yeah, that's Kerbal style. Here we go. Nice group photo. Let's plant a flag. And let's call it Ike landing site, because everything is called place landing site. And yeah, well, let's go back in. We have a time to keep, a schedule to stick to. So let's get going. Where is the craft? The target needs to be somewhere around here, maybe. And let's go. Let's go back. And here we see the results of not really caring about your inclination when doing transfer burns and such. You eventually end up with quite a lot of it, if you're unlucky. So we try to catch up with this craft, and it goes over well enough. Because the Ike has, of course, rather low gravity, so it's not super hard to get in close, and the orbital speed is relatively low. And where is that craft? I see it, but it's right there. It's hard to see. We need to light it up. There we go. Nice. It's so close. It's very dark on the dark side, unsurprisingly. So we need to dock this back up. We need to transfer the engines again and go back to Duna, hook up with our tanker, and get ready for the transfer to Joule. So we need to change the engines, and this is where I do one of those big derp moments. Because the engines are solar powered, they don't have any batteries, and this is on the dark side. So we're just gonna have to wait and watch the engines drift away while we wait for sunrise. But fortunately, they didn't pick up any real speed away from us. So yeah, we just fly them back and dock them up. So there we go. Gonna balance out the fuel. We want the fuel in the lander because that's where it's going to be used. We activate the correct engines, otherwise we're not gonna go anywhere. And we plan our transfer back to Duna. All in all, this kind of mission is very much like the early missions you do, where you go to the moon, because you're still orbiting a parent body, and you're going to its close by and large moon, and you're going home from it, and the body in question has an atmosphere where you can aerobrake. So this is it's familiar, but it's also a bit different, as the parent body, in this case Duna, is smaller than Kerbin. And the moon, in this case Ike, is bigger than the Mun. So the dynamics are a bit different, but the principles are all the same. So it's it's refreshing to have something which is very easy to do, but still not something which you have done exactly that way lots of times before. So we're aerobraking to save fuel, because when you come up on the transfer window, you realize that every drop of fuel, well, that's all you have. You're gonna have to take steps to conserve the fuel, because you're not gonna go through the trouble of sending more out here unless you really have to. And I kinda don't want to actually launch any more ships. I just want to do this. So we end up in a terrible position relative to our tanker, and we're gonna have to just wait lots of orbits to get close. This is why we wanted the extra large margin. Sure, it's still lots of days away and we're basically done here, but you never know. So we come in close. Well, close and close, a couple of kilometers still. We zero out. No, not quite zero. We just slow down relative velocity and we approach the tanker, the 64 tanker, because it's got one orange fuel tank. And I call those 64 tanks because they have 64 sets of 10 fuel units. Yeah, it's not at all confusing. No. So, here I'm thinking, how much fuel do I have? And what crafts am I going to use? And it turns out that the fuel in the tanker plus all the fuel in the lander and service ship here adds up to about the same as the fuel capacity of the tanker. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dock these together. We're gonna suck the lander dry and the service tank. We're gonna suck out all the fuel, put it in the tanker, and then we're gonna use the command module that we brought all this way, which is stuck there at the back, and we're gonna ditch the lander completely. We're not gonna keep anything. It's going to become space debris. Yeah, I know it's served us well, but that's the way things work. So the first thing we're gonna have to do, now that the fuel is transferred, is to move the command module, and it's stuck here at the back with all the radiation and such. So we send Bill over, he's qualified, and we undock the command module, which, as I have said many times and still quite proud of, it's a completely independent ship. So it's got its own power generation and fuel and thrusters. So we move it to the front, and now we transfer the rest of the crew. This is Jeb and Bob. Don't forget to turn off the lights before you leave. Good. So all the crew is over, all the fuel is over. We are good, except that the command module is not quite straight on. So we're gonna have to get us some distance and straighten it up. looks a bit strange because the spaceship, the tanker and the command module looks so much like a spaceship is supposed to look like. It looks so good in my eyes that separating the command module looks like cutting the head of it. And that looks weird, even though I just docked it on there. So, well, it's got the wrong name. That's some old designation. Let's call it that. And that's it. We're pretty much done. There's just one last thing. We are in very much the same orbit as this now piece of debris. So I'm going to move the spacecraft to a slightly higher orbit just to safeguard against any potential collisions. We have a few spare parts, true, but not everything is fixable, not even by the kerbals. So we just enjoy the view with the sunrise over Duna, and we finish circularizing our orbit, and that's it. Not just pretty much, that is actually it. We are done for this episode. Thanks for watching. Bye!